coming session, we have a very unique panel of our health experts. And this is a very interesting panel which is going to deliberate and highlight some of the issues which we are not able to see on the surface. Mental health, well-being, and many those issues or health related areas which sometimes are also related to disabilities, deformities, and special elements which also contribute to the good or bad mental well-being of ours. So let me begin with Professor Dr. Pankaj Gupta, President of IHMR University, Jaipur. He is a global academic leader with a vast experience of over 25 years. An academic who is also an exceptional institution builder. Professor Gupta has been associated with several top organizations such as IMT Ghaziabad, SIBM, Symbiosis Bangalore, IIM Kozhikode, University of Washington, SPGen Dubai and Singapore campuses, and IIM Raipur and Rohtak. So welcome, Professor Gupta, on this panel. We also have Dr. Prakriti Poddar. She is one of the most passionate champion of mental health I have come across. She is the managing trustee of Poddar Foundation and has been working in the field of mental health for more than 2 decades. The foundation's flagship program, Silence Todo, aims to break the silent suffering of individuals and sensitize people with understanding and knowledge about mental health and its various aspects. So welcome, Prakriti, back to on our Gratitude Week sessions. And we are also thankful for your quiet support in putting together this, one of its kind initiative to honor our health workers. We also have a young talent from our medical fraternity, Dr. Amit Gupta. He is the director and chief surgeon of Divine Cosmetic Surgeries. Dr. Gupta has largest experience with vessel procedures in North India and receives patients from vessel from US, UK, Canada, and UAE, Australia, almost across the world. Dr. Gupta is one of the finest plastic surgeon, cosmetologist in our country, and he is going to share some of the really interesting, areas where our well-being, health, and the social wellness gets hampered, and how it impacts the lives of the people and adds sufferings which are not visible. So let me begin this with Professor Pankaj. So Professor Pankaj, as I said, that the challenges to our wellness, well-being, and to our mental calm and happiness, and something which you advocate for, mindfulness, are many. We are living in a situation where the anxiety, the existential question is always haunting us. And we don't know which dark alley we are proceeding to. In such a scenario, when we are, we have gathered together and we are running this initiative to pay our tribute to the healthcare workers also, they are also facing one of the biggest challenge of being on the front line of this war. And during the last 4 days, we have been hearing from the doctors and all, healthcare leaders that one of the biggest challenge for these healthcare workers is also that about the risk which are involved, and they are not bothered about them, but they are also sometimes bothered about their family, about their friends, about the whole, all those people who come across. What is your take on where our society stands as of now when it comes to having an environment of mental well-being, and how much it is essential to fight something like the ongoing pandemic? Professor Pankaj Gupta.
Kamal ji, namaskar. और आप सभी लोगों को, प्रगति जी, अमित जी, मैडम एंड माली जी, आप सब लोगों को नमस्कार, और सारे ही सुनने वालों को. I would like to say that I deal with a lot of healthcare professionals because our university is a top university in the area of healthcare, and we have been doing a lot of research work. Even yesterday we had convocation where we had health minister and also the MD of BCG, Priyanka Agrawal ji. They all were there, and we have been discussing about this issue. So first of all, I would like to really compliment Kamal ji that he has thought about this gratitude week. It is really a great idea, and he was also sharing with me that how there are so many people who are trying to portray the wrong information, and the people who are already driven by inner seva bhav, and with that seva bhav, how people are trying to create unnecessary problems, so that they feel, oh, why we are taking so much of pains, and also, as you were rightly saying, that putting at risk your own self, your family, sometimes doing the work which you do not know whether anybody is appreciating or not. So these issues are very, very important. And also, you mentioned that they might be going through a lot of the stress, and which they may not be able to even share with others. So under these situations, there are a lot of structured interventions are there, and trained psychologists and other people. And I know that Pragati Poddar ji has been doing a lot of work in this area, also running a very important helpline number and all that. We also have been doing a lot of work with the government of Rajasthan, and our results are very, very positive. Rather, in managing the COVID, Rajasthan is now number 1 at this moment. I'd like to say that when nobody is watching you, you need to watch yourself. When nobody is appreciating you, you need to appreciate yourself. So in that way, I'm just sharing from the health workers' point of view at this moment, because many times, the unsung heroes, like we know that there are soldiers on the Indo-Chinese border, and it was nice on behalf of our Prime Minister that he went there and उन्होंने उनका पूरा वो हौसला अफजाई किया. But when nobody is watching, nobody is appreciating, nobody is supervising, then how to motivate your own self? And for that matter, as I've been always advocating, that external motivation can come, they can give you some, high thing like, the soda water, and then again going down. But when you are driven by inner thing, like what Modi ji also shared about the seva bhav and all that, I think the seva bhav is very, very important for a healthcare professional, looking much beyond your own self, your own family and other things, looking the bigger universe in everyone, because the time when the medical doctor take a pledge at the time of entering into the medical profession, and also we know that even in the civil service also there is a pledge and oath being taken, but later on those things are being forgotten. So if somebody is driven by that, like we know that it is only in giving that we receive, it is the more humility we have and the more gratitude we have, more is given to us. And also you reach to a stage where anybody gives you or not, you are still driven, because the purpose is so important. So that is what Tulsidas says, that Swanpaye Sukhaye. That somebody asked him, कि भाई आपने इतना काम क्यों किया, रामायण लिखी, सब किया. बोले, I am driven by Swanpaye Sukhaye, कि मैं अपने खुद की खुशी के लिए काम कर रहा हूँ. And rather than somebody appreciating my work and so on. So I believe बाहर का लोग कितना appreciate करेगा, because if they appreciate today, we feel happy, and sometimes if they say bad thing to us, again those bloated ego will come down. So we need to prepare ourselves in such a way that we are driven by our own self, and in that matter, the role of meditation, mindfulness, and inner journey, and feeling the bliss within us is very important. And at the same time, what we say, the ahar, vihar, vichar, and vyavhar, the right food, the right thinking, the right, environment is also very important. and thinking beyond self, I think that is what I'd like to recommend. I'll be happy to come back as you wish. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Gupta. Very interesting thought you have put forward. Swantai Sukhai. All those who are working and doing, whatever in their line of duty, they should take pleasure and happiness from there. And I think that can be a very useful, medium and a way to stay happy in what you are doing. In this gratitude week, we are also trying to understand that how different medical professionals bring those interventions which help us at a time when Swantai Sukhai or good food, sleep, or life may not alone be able to give that satisfaction or something which may be a cause of stigmatization by the society. So I'll like to take Dr. Amit Gupta on here. Dr. Gupta has been working very hard and extensively in the area of many times curing those sometime deformities, and also something which you kind of end up having without your own maybe fault, or maybe because just out of this lifestyle and the way we live. So two things, Dr. Gupta, what I got to know about you are working extensively in helping those people, especially male, who had some physical deformities, and to be specific, something like male breast or some kind of those issues, or somebody who might have lost their hair in early age, which we saw in our recent some of the movies like Bala and couple of other movies, where these things were highlighted. These were simple things, in our day-to-day life. They may not be. It is not that my hair fall happens because I'm responsible for that. Maybe my lifestyle, my stress level is that, but that become another cause of stigmatization. If I am a 24-year-old and lose my hair and become bald, or if I have breasts which are much of different proportion than they should be, they become cause of stigmatization. And what I heard that you help them, those kind of people. What are those stories? Would you like to share some of the story? What actually happens with them, and is it becoming a big problem in the well-being of those people?
Yeah, thanks, Kamal. So first of all, you introduced me as being a young plastic surgeon. I'm not. So being a plastic surgeon has its perks. You can make someone older look much younger.
Wonderful.
So I'm not too young. Now, the question that you put up to me is, of course, not related to Corona and these times. Small comment on what Dr. Gupta mentioned about doctors trying to motivate themselves. What I'm seeing is the apathy of the people in charge of running the country towards doctors is driving that motivation away from doctors. The feeling. So that's the only comment, one line I had to make. But let's move on to the topic that you're saying. Yeah. Now, the thing is that I'm a plastic surgeon, and people don't associate plastic surgery with mental health. People associate plastic surgery with vanity, where it's not true. And over the last 3 years, you're absolutely correct. It's great that you actually brought up this point, because we've been doing a lot of male breast reduction surgery. Now, let me be honest about, so I've been a plastic surgeon for 13 years, and I've been a doctor for about 28 years now. And so when I started off with the male breast reduction, it was purely as a surgical procedure, which is part of the curriculum, part of the treatment plan. But I like to talk. I like to communicate with people. I like to interact as to why they are doing. I'll give you one story, which is two stories, in fact. The first story is of a person who came in from Lucknow. Now, these surgeries generally can take anything from, say, 25 minutes to an hour. So one patient actually came in from Calcutta, took a train almost 36 hours for a 25-minute surgery, and went back by that 36-hour train. I mean, spending 72 hours of his life on train for a 25-minute surgery. I'm going to tell you the second story. And then I'm going to collate all these and come to the message. The second one was a guy from Lucknow, a rickshaw puller, came to my center, wanted a male breast reduction. Now, one would not associate someone from that economic strata wanting a plastic surgery. As you know, plastic surgery is under GST. The previous regime started off the GST assuming plastic surgery is for vanity and it's for the people in the film industry, etc., etc. Now a rickshaw puller wanting a plastic surgery. That's the second story. I asked him why. And he said, sir, गर्मियों में हम लोग mostly बनियान में रहते हैं या bare chest रहते हैं, अच्छा नहीं लगता. Third story. I'll ask Dr. Prakriti to excuse me on this story, but this is true. So I'm going to actually relate this on live. There's a guy who came to me recently married with a breast reduction. I asked him why. And he said, my wife says that your breasts are bigger than mine. Just imagine the confidence which that guy must have had. I mean, just imagine how shattered he was. Now I'll come to the point I'm trying to make. We've forgotten men as having inferiority complexes. We have never regarded men as having the power to cry. We have never regarded men as wanting to improve themselves. And even I didn't. Being very honest, I did not realize this part as well. On occasions when I hear stories from people before their surgery, it often brings tears to my eyes as well. There was a surgery I was starting. The patient was on the table, just about to be induced for general anesthesia. I walk into the operating room. The guy gets up from the table, older to me, comes down onto my feet and says, "Sir, aap Bhagwan hai. Aap aaj mujhe nayi zindagi de rahe hain." I didn't know what to respond to. I mean, he's older to me doing that. The whole question is about the mental trauma. The whole question is they can't talk to their parents. I've had a kid who stopped going to school, 15-year-old kid, stopped going to school because he had a larger chest. His fellow mates would tell him, "Tu to ladki hai." The girls wouldn't talk to him. He could not get into athletics, sports, I mean. So he became a recluse, introvert ho gaya from being an extrovert in a couple of years because at puberty time, 13-14 saal ki age mein you get those hormonal changes. Started skipping school for 1 year. His parents brought him to me. We did the surgery and his father came back and said, "Sir, you have changed my son." That is plastic surgery. We are changing lives. We are changing the mental process. These people come back. The biggest trauma they face, they can't talk to their parents. They can't talk to the wife. They cannot talk to their friends. They don't get photographs taken. Whether it's a male chest or a baldness. Baldness is worse. Baldness, a 20-year-old man looking like a 40-year-old man, earning 10 lakhs a month, not getting married. Because India में prospective father-in-law बोलता है कि भाई साहब कि बेटा आप तो मुझसे भी बड़े लगते हो. अब वो लड़की शादी कैसे करेगी उससे? एक पति अपनी पत्नी का ससुर लगता है. So that is the trauma these people are facing. And the government of India puts a GST on this. So that's the sad part, that we as a whole are becoming extremely unattractive for foreign patients because of the 18% GST we have. Patients inside here say, "Sir, meri life ruk gayi hai. Main aage kaise badhun?" And you do that and the life changes, but they have to pay tax on it, which is the sad part. So I hope I've highlighted the mental trauma that men are going through. And this is something I've been really working on over the past 2 to 3 years. All my campaigns are directed towards male aesthetic plastic surgery.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta. These are very poignant stories actually which you brought in. They may be lesser in numbers, but they are also alive. They too face that distress. And for them, and that has been the whole current of our discussion throughout these 4 days, and also going to be in the future, as well, that the role of doctors is very, very different and very, very critical, and comes in maybe in a very different manner for everyone. So for many, they are God. For many, they are superhumans, which we see, in the present pandemic time, and they are also human. And like you shared that many times they also feel those emotions of those patients, as you said, that sometimes they bring tears to even your eyes. Doctor, we'll come back to it, and these are the interesting areas which we normally ignore and we don't count when we talk about healthcare, doctors, and caring for lives or saving lives. Actually, these are also equally life-saving. We will also get Sameera Jahagirdar, I think, shortly, but Dr. Prakriti. So you see a variety of, and a big spectrum of people who may be having mental trauma of different kind. You have done wonderful work in providing mental health relief for the people during the pandemic by putting up a helpline. You have seen, and I do get to hear while I talk to you that how you feel pain when you see people at the prime of their age committing suicide, and we have seen recently some of those cases, and they can belong all those the big and at the cream de la cream of our society. But what Dr. Amit Gupta is highlighting, a rickshaw puller, somebody it's people coming from the bottom of our society, and they too are facing this kind of challenge. What is your take, and how do you see this overall mental burden being built up in our society, and how do you see the role of our doctors and any one who is bringing those interventions to help people reduce those problems?
Hi, Kamal. Thank you so much for having me here again. It's lovely to meet you, Amit. I haven't met you before, even though it's on this platform. Of course, Pankaj, I love your work, and you always do such great work, and your complete faith in mindfulness and meditation is just something to be remembered. Thank you so much. Amit, I have to say that your conversations remind me of the people that come to me as well, because in fact, I work very closely. A very good friend of mine is a plastic surgeon, and he always recommends the person come for therapy first, because such a large part of who they are is based on the visual aspect as well as the emotional aspect. And so what they see and what they respond to in their universe has to be aligned. And we've actually had cases, in fact, from Rajasthan, somebody'd come for years and years. He wanted to change his face. He wasn't happy. He wanted to look like a particular film star, and he would go on and on. He was only like 20. He was very young, and his parents could not understand how to handle this boy. Could not. And this boy was like, constantly claiming self-harm, constantly feeling like he felt like he was in somebody else's life, because he wasn't, when he looked in the mirror, he just didn't feel himself. This was a very heightened state of body dysmorphia. And it is something that, of course, goes into Amit's domain, and he would be the right person to solve it. But the mental disharmony that comes with it is so intense that it was every day for him waking up was a struggle, because if he had to get up, he had to go to the shower, he had to look at himself, and it didn't work for him. He was very traumatized. And of course, there are, on the other end of the spectrum, there are people who get addicted to surgeries as well, because they keep getting one after another to kind of better themselves, because they're not happy internally. There is a logic, but when the doctor begins to feel that the logic is not getting understood. So for example, my friend who does this, he always understands whether it's a necessity or it isn't. And if it's not a necessity and it seems to be something that has a mental health issue attached to it, he sends the person for therapy to see whether there can be a easing up of that. And then, of course, the changes can take place. So I find it very interesting that in the States, of course, and in Canada, where I come from most of the time, I'm always looking at what's happening there. You always have cosmetic surgery along with mental health. In India, it's not so much, but you have doctors who've been kind of trained. And surprisingly, every doctor now has a bit of understanding about mental health, because there are so many psychosomatic disorders. People who have issues, even somatics in their body. They have issues and pain, and they're unable to manage this pain despite what they've done. And no amount of working on it with medicine has helped. They only have two options after that. They either seek a therapist, and they additionally add meditation and mindfulness to their repertoire of work to calm down their nervous system, to be able to deal with the environment in a better manner. So these two things become the nth goal for a person if they're unable to receive the kind of help they need from allopathy. Again, talking about what's happening here in terms of mental health, these are things that are not generally spoken about. In fact, what Amit was talking about was the stigma around beauty placed on men. Like men should not be involved in that kind of banter or that kind of recognition. Yet I have two kids, and I mean two boys, and I see how they're growing, and they're constantly comparing and contrasting themselves to each other to see, who's turning out better, what do they need to gain. And I'm not one of those mothers who's stopping them, but there is a culture of telling boys that it doesn't matter. There is a culture of telling boys to just focus on things that matter to the parent, which is the education, etc., and not very much on your external appearance or your internal wellness. Both things connect. And here it's only about education most of the time. And so that also plays such a vast role in making someone insecure and unable to speak about what really is bothering them, because it doesn't fit into the mold of being an Indian man or a woman. But right now we're just talking about the man. So I understand where this kind of vulnerability gets condensed inside and creates a host of disharmonies. But that's just going from this point of view. But talking to you about what really is going on, even just with the doctors, like we talk about, this whole conversation really has been about the frontline workers, the doctors who are kind of like in this vortex of this pandemic and really are faced with uncertainties on an everyday basis. They're forced to be in motion by leaving their emotions aside. It's almost like divorcing yourself from your emotions, and that will create the kind of pandemic of mental health or the mental health fallout that people have, because it's very easy right now to be in fight or flight, and all the doctors have gone into fight mode, and they've forgotten that their emotional well-being is also supposed to join hands and kind of lift them forward. So it becomes a function of just being able to survive in this motion and being able to uplift others. But I fear that if they do not spend that time, like even Pankaj was saying, they don't spend that time in the evening, just regrouping with themselves, just, coming into their own being, asking them the right questions of being able to understand what their surge is, what their emotions are, what their discomfort is, what the kind of the vulnerabilities that they're facing in terms of connecting with their own family members or connecting with their own selves, becomes a space which they do not take for themselves. And I urge all the doctors to kind of take that time for themselves, even if it's like 10 minutes in the evening. Take that time, because you cannot be alone or lonely or fighting this pandemic individually as a warrior going out. It'll be successful if you are bringing well-being into that as well. It'll be successful because it will add to your aloneness and not aid your loneliness in this pandemic, because it is a very isolated space. Even though you are working with a whole group of people, it is isolated because you are out there every day. You know that you are threatened. Every day you know that you are threatened in your physical health, but also in your emotional health, because this is not an easy time and this is not an easy period. And like I think you mentioned, how does one motivate themselves in this time where motivation is only intrinsic, in the time where you wake up and you know that you've got to go out there and battle against something that really nobody knows how to battle. The unknowns are phenomenal, and yet you're also dealing with a culture of people that find it difficult to maintain, social distance, or who find it difficult to maintain physical distance, and you're putting yourself in harm's way, and yet You have to keep yourself in control. You have to keep that mindfulness in control. And you have to make sure that mindfulness check takes place every evening, because the wholeness that you can feel really matters, because you will recognize the pain only once this trauma or this fighting spirit has stopped, because then you're in control of moving with the backlash of the PTSD, as they call it, the backlash of the trauma that that you're accumulating at this point. So instead of accumulating it all and creating a mountain out of this molehill that you could heal every day and you could kind of brush aside, put aside by dealing with it, I think that becomes a really important aspect. And every single human being, if they have emotions, if they have mental health, they are going to be going through some kind of mental health disharmony or change. And it's imperative for them to have a look at this, to convince themselves through conversations of maybe Socratic questioning, opening it up to themselves and also their friends or their peers about what really do they need to feel better, and connection. Because this is like we've been saying before, social isolation, but it's not emotional isolation. And nobody really needs to deal with emotional isolation, because that is the killer. Hopelessness, helplessness, and these things born into a spirit of helplessness creates the most amount of trauma in a person's life.
Thank you so much, Prakriti, for highlighting this. But I would also like to bring back the discussion of that when everything which looks well is not well. Dr. Pankaj, Dr. Amit highlighted some of the areas. Dr. Prakriti also highlighted and endorsed that there are so many cases coming to her and to also the other doctors. You are advocating normally that you need to be mindful, and that's what Dr. Prakriti is also saying, that you need to regroup with yourself, you need to come back to yourself. But what happens when there is a upheaval inside you? Sometime going out, stay away far from you may be a better recourse than coming back to yourself, because in yourself everything is in a very messy situation. And that's what I think lead to this kind of mental health extremities, where we see the something which goes to something really an unpleasant outcome. So what do you say about that kind of situation where the upheaval is inside you, the storm is inside you?
Kamalji, do you want me to say something?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Okay. See, you're asking a very, very difficult question. Who has, but I can share with all humility that I have gone through this whole process in life, from being a totally external driven person to a sort of internal driven person. And also knowing very well that earlier the opinion of people, getting those external medals and those appreciation really matter a lot. But when I spend a lot of time in silence and in meditation and other things, then only I realized that if I want to get a temporary peace and happiness, the so-called concept of happiness also need to be revised totally. And then, and also, the swas kya hai? Swas is like, swa me sthit. When you are centered in your own self, then only you are swast. And when you are not centered in yourself, then where are you centered? As I've been sharing, then you are centered either in abhav or prabhav, but not in swabhav. So that means what even Prakriti was sharing, that when you are feeling a sense of loneliness, when you are feeling a sense of inadequacy, and that is the time when you really need somebody's shoulder, and when you really need, somebody to help you. So those systems should also be there. Like, we have an organization and where we are also having counselors, we have health support workers. And in that way, what we do, we organize wellness sessions every morning. When we have, because even now the total university has not started functioning because of lockdown and corona. But it's still the people who are mainly engaged in research and not that much in teaching, they come. So we still have this model that, having some sort of a laughter together, then, some little meditation, mindfulness sessions. And what happens during the day, a lot of stress gets built up because you are having certain expectations, they are not met during the day, or somebody has said something to you which you are not able to digest. You expected certain outcome from your boss or certain behavior from your peers, or you went to a place to help in corona and you are being thrown the stones and you are being harassed and all that, and then you are coming back. I'm mainly talking in context of the corona workers. So these are creating a lot of scars in you. Maybe some people who are, very bold enough, they will fight it out, they will handle things head on. But most of the people, what happens, they create a lot of impressions in their own heart. And then they struggle a lot in these cases. So therefore, in our mindfulness practices, we have one thing known as the cleaning process. Like when you come back in the evening, and what Prakriti ji was also sharing, that what you do when you come back in the evening, are you having some sort of support system? Are you able to again reclaim your aloneness? Aloneness is a stage where you are whole and complete by yourself. The people say, sort of life partner, but the people who have experience, they know the real life partner is only your body. So how your body is really fed with the thoughts, that is what I was sharing, the ahar, vihar, vichar and vyavhar. So in that way, if there is nobody to love you, you should love yourself. And also the impressions, the heaviness and sanskara which are collected during the day, there is a process by which you can just meditate and you will see that those things are going from the back of your body in the form of a vapor and you feel very, very light. And then also when you sleep, then how you can apply concept of yoga nidra. So we know that the yoga nidra, if you follow, if you are having a 45-minute of deep yoga nidra, then it is equivalent to 3 hours of sleep. There are a lot of documentary evidence there. Because many times what happens that you are just there, working hard. There is, like the way you see that there is a dog coming there and a cat is sitting there. So they will have this kind of excitement, emotion. The moment that dog goes away, cat is again like limp. The excitement, the eustress, there's a positive stress and the de-stress, which is a negative stress. And after that, there has to be a deep level of relaxation. If you're having a right balance of the, the tension and relaxation together, then those moments are, you can handle it very well. Moreover, gradually creating a supporting environment, with your peers group. Nowadays, there is also a lot of people are doing a small Zoom kind of a group they have created. They have created a WhatsApp group also. There are a lot of anonymous people who have come together and they share their problem. You see that many years back, we started this blogging and those kind of a thing. But later it also became more of an ego issue. Then you blog and then you see, okay, how many people are reading it, how many people are liking it. Then again, you try to link it to your own self-worth and ego that way. I am saying more you know the real truth and also more you also know what is real and what is unreal and more you love yourself. And most importantly, how you accept yourself the way it is. When you have to anyway go out and handle the patients, why don't you do it with love and with care? And also knowing fully well what is really mine cannot be taken away from me. I also see senior people struggling. How can I save my chair? Oh, this guy is, against me. Oh, this person is, trying to play politics against me. Why you bother? You only focus on the positive outcome and positive action at your end. What is in your area of concern? And then do not bother much. Because even if those things are taken away from you, you are not dead. something else will open up. So this is what I did like to share.
Thank you, Professor Gupta. But one point I just want to ask, because that is going to be an important aspect to take this discussion forward. You are an academician and you deal with students. They are grown-up students, but at the same time, that is the time where a lot of these peer pressures and those kind of stigmatization, something which Dr. Gupta was also highlighting and something Prakriti also highlighted, happens. How do you deal with that within your the university or the various educational institutions you have been involved? Because there it is apart from going forward that formation years, but that is the time when mental health can strike you really hard, because that is the time your aspirations are building up and you are being stigmatized and all that. That I think that's the challenging environment. How do you bring intervention for that?
Okay, so I have many such examples, but I would like to share two examples. By our very structured intervention and mentoring model, what we do, we create a IDP, individual development plan for our students. And I know that there was a girl who was suffering with a lot of inferiority complex because she was very dark, and therefore the other people, and she was also from village, and a lot of problems she was facing. Other people were boycotting her and like that. So she came to the counselor and we discussed with her. And these people, like that this Fair and Lovely has also now removed the fair part, and Fair and Handsome ki jagah, I think they've done something, some other name they have given to it, because many people were questioning that you are simply playing with the emotions of people. So we have done a lot of work with that person, especially I thank to my faculty members and my counselor who created the confidence in that girl. You cannot really change the color of your skin. So you please accept yourself. Because, then she was not driven what to do, and all the time she was in that tension. Oh, I'm not good enough, and those kind of feelings were there. So we created a model for her, how you can earn more respect and love for your own self. So we said, if you get placed in a consulting company, what about it? And she really, grabbed that idea. And we said, this consulting company, if you want to go, you need to publish, you need to create your research credential. So we created a plan for her for 2 years, and she very strictly followed that. And when there was so much of positive work for her, then she forgot all those comments and all that. And then she became very active in the academic also, and her paper were getting published in Economic Times and all that. Then other people also started coming to her, and then she forgot everything, that as if, which color of skin she has. So diverting the attention. And one boy, he was very short. He was just 5 feet. And again, he was being ridiculed. And because in our campus, there are more girls, almost like 80% girls are there and few boys. Again, he was suffering with that. Again, in the same manner, we said, we gave example of like Arjuna, that when the opportunity came, then he did this tapasya and collected those Brahmastra and all that, and then he became powerful. We also gave that vision to him. We connected him with one person with 4 or 5 years of experience, one vice president person, and one CEO as a mentor. And in that way, he also worked very hard. So what I wish to say first is accepting the way you are and the way you are not, number one. And number two, creating a positive goal for life. And also regular mentoring to those people. Because what happens, the moment you give a great idea to a person, but again, those thoughts will again come back. So you need to really come back, oh, everything is all right. How can I be of help? And without making them feel bad, that oh, as if there is something missing in you. So you are like whole and complete. That is what I would like to say. And I'm just sharing this only 2 examples, but I can share many more actually like this.
Definitely, there must be a lot of that example. We all have come from colleges and schools and have, been undergoing many such things, or might have seen that other going under, through this. Thank you so much. So the message here is accept yourself, make your goals, and then pursue them. Dr. Gupta, accept yourself is something which may not be a plastic surgeon will accept. A plastic surgeon will definitely, make you look for better and actually transform into better. What do you say about it? How many times you can actually, or you feel actually that in this scenario, accepting yourself will be something, right for the patient, or in some cases where, you can change it, you will change it, but how much you can change it? What are the limitations of you also as a plastic surgeon, and where you need to also kind of make a patient realize that everything cannot be kind of done by the scalpel itself?
So I think that is a trick question you've just asked me. Wherein how can I leave a person as to where he is, then I wouldn't be able to work. But the second part of your point actually highlights what I would have replied anyway. It's not unlimited. What is shown in the media, what is shown on Instagram, what is shown on Snapchat is not true. Most of the media models who are shown are all Photoshopped. It's a well-known fact. Unfortunately, we do get people who bring photographs of such models, all those beautiful bikini bodies and crazy kind of faces, and do this.
Are we having the bad connection?
I'll get off my Bluetooth once.
Am I more audible?
Yeah. Much better.
Yeah, I think it is my Bluetooth. So the thing is that the second part of what you said is what is relevant is that the understanding of the limitations of plastic surgery, or for that matter, anything. Now we get people. So one of the major problems we face nowadays is the explosion of social media, and what is shown on Instagram and other social medias. Most of the pictures which are shown are photoshopped. Most of the results which are shown are a series of procedures and not just one event. Unfortunately, prospective people do not know that. And they bring pictures of such, those beautiful bodies and stuff. And then they bring, make this. And that is where the clash happens. And that is where a lot of counseling needs to be done to them. Now, in our own practice, I think at least 50% of the time, we're actually just counseling the patient. We're telling them that this is not possible. You've got to accept what you are. And these are the limitations. So in my own personal work, I try to reduce their expectations a lot. Because plastic surgery, so it is a well-known fact that people who undergo plastic surgery are inherently neurotic. Now, neurotic means they're psychologically well adjusted to society. They are not abnormal. They're not psychotics. They're neurotics, which means they are a little disbalanced in their own feeling towards themselves. And this is a well-known fact, and especially people who undergo no surgery are the most neurotic out of the whole lot. So we need to address that aspect, and a huge amount of counseling is actually a part of the whole consult process. Now, for example, I've had patients who, say, for example, wanted breast implants, and then they bring these weird pictures from God knows which site and, make this. And we know that is not possible. Now, do we run the risk of losing such a patient because someone else might? Or do we tell them the truth that, see, you're going to damage yourself? Now, it is every doctor's responsibility to be honest on that. And we follow that a lot. We've accepted losing patients to rather than justifying, rather than doing what they demand. So there's a lot of self-restriction at work. There's a lot of times where our counseling doesn't work, and we actually say no to such people. Most surprising, couple of days back, I mean, this came as a shock, and this is probably and I totally agree with Dr. Prakriti when she says that you need to, most plastic surgery patients should undergo counseling. And in US, it's actually more of a mandatory phenomena. Not so in India, it should. We had a patient who a young girl wanted a lip reduction. So she had a slightly bigger lip. She was posted for surgery yesterday morning. Day before night, she was spoken to, everything was fine. Yesterday morning, my counselor calls her up just to confirm she's on the way. Her bhabhi picks up, says she tried to commit suicide at night. And this is after discussing with us that she's fine and she's coming. So what is going on in the minds of such people, we don't know. And that is what makes it very difficult for plastic surgeons, because do not know. A person who's smiling. So there's one particular term which is used, Simon, SIMON. So I don't know the full form of that really, but it's about a single person who's inherently narcissistic about themselves, inherently just, in themselves. For them, this is getting better is their life or they die. So one thing which is taught to us is to identify such isolated people and not treat them, because then they attach to you. They are people who need to undergo counseling and actually not plastic surgery.
So you mean to say that, that the notion that what God has not been able to give you, a plastic surgeon can give, may not
we can, definitely we can do anything. I can almost make Dr. Pankaj look like Dr. Prakriti, or the other way.
Wonderful. And that's where I kind of faltered today, saying that we have one of the young talent from medical industry. So this is because I consider myself young, and I think our relationship goes almost 10 years back, and I consider still that we are as young as that time.
I'm older to you.
Yeah, certainly. So, but my hair shows, otherwise. Okay, so Dr. Prakriti, so you saw, and I brought to you two different perspectives. Here is Professor Pankaj, who is talking about mindfulness and giving a very strong message of that accept yourself, and also practicing and making difference in the lives of a student, which he too mentioned to students about how he changed with the right counseling and the right guidance, the whole objective and then the way of looking at their life. Similarly, Dr. Amit Gupta is bringing something really, really palpable, physical difference into the life of people, which can translate into a better mental health as well. You have seen both of that, and then your own the whole body of work and battery of work which you are doing. Dr. Prakriti, how you are going to sum it up and say that the mental health, when it comes to getting better well-being mentally, both of these end are equally important?
It's a great question. It takes me back to my first company when in 2000, when I started Mind Over Image Consulting. I was a trained image consultant, but the keynote of the company was and is, it's not a makeover, it's a mind over. So the whole idea was really that people would come to me because they weren't happy with how they looked. They would come to me because they weren't happy with how they dressed. They'd come to me because they weren't happy with how much weight they had on, or whether they were too skinny, or whether they weren't able to project the right image. So it was all about like, how am I externally? And of course, I've grown up in a place which has been very open to plastic surgery. So obviously having that kind of background, it was very easy for me to tell which person would require deep help and which person I could work with. But the whole idea was I wouldn't do any of this until I did the mind over, which is get them really comfortable with who they are, and then getting them to understand what nuances do they really want to change. And is that a function of just their psyche, or is it something that is a real problem? Like if you have a polyps in your nose, you need to get a nose job. If you have, if you've been hit and your nose is out of shape, you need to get a nose job. If you've had an accident, you need to get a nose job. Surprisingly, people look at plastic surgery as something that is just visceral, but it isn't, because there are a lot of deformities that get solved because of plastic surgery. In fact, it's needed for a lot of cases. Especially the palate, cleft lip and palate, or any other kind of and if you've had an accident, of course, you can't get better without plastic surgery, because you'll never feel yourself until that happens. I know we had an accident when I was 3 years old, and my father's complete face was cut, and we were driving from New York to Washington, DC. And he had to have plastic surgery because it all had to be stitched up. And if he hadn't had that, there would be scarring, and there would be issues that he probably wouldn't have dealt with, because you're so connected and invested in how you look. I know that most men, I have a husband who'll go on about, oh my God, I think I need like hair implants, I'm getting bald, and you guys all have hair, but I know that for him it's getting to be a problem now. He's feeling insecure, and I don't see it because it doesn't bother me, but men, it bothers them. It's their shining armor. They like it. And
it bothers women as well, I believe.
No, so women
when they start losing it.
Women have been told that men who have a receding hairline have much more sexual chemistry in them. So they actually enjoy people even if they've lost their hair. It's not a big deal, right? Depends on how much the girl has or the woman has studied. And there are a lot of very prominent superstars who are bald, and people and women like that. So I think that is really debatable. It's really about how you feel about what you have or what you don't have. It's more personal than if you're confident, everything looks good on you. If you're confident, like Pankaj Jaji just told you about this girl who had a plan of action and then she got her confidence. When you get your confidence, you start oozing confidence, and that creates the aura, because what you see anyway, I mean, when you go into spirituality, you know that everything is just a vibration, and what you see can be transformed as well the moment you get comfortable with yourself. And that was the whole purpose of Mind Over Image Consulting as well, which is really get confident internally, feel good about yourself, understand your purpose, your mission, and what you're here to really accomplish. And all these things are invisible because mental health is invisible. And then if you feel that there is something that needs to be changed, like for example, I had a friend, well, not really so much a friend, but a patient who'd come to me, and she was having a bad marriage, and she kept blaming the bad marriage on the fact that she was very small chested, and she kept saying, obviously my husband's not going to want me because look at me, and I couldn't tell the difference. But she actually went ahead and said, no, I want you to look at me and tell me, is there a real problem? And when I did actually view it, I realized that she might actually be better off getting like B implants or C implants, depending on what she wanted, what she'd be comfortable with. But the stigma around her was so intense. She was like, my family's going to think that, why am I doing this? And they're going to judge me, and they're going to judge me for my sexuality, for my, because there's so much stigma around it, all these things. You can't even speak about it, And these are the problems that come up. Everything in our culture is about how much you can hold in. And that in itself is a direct proportion to how much mental health disorder you are accumulating, because you're unable to voice your own emotions, you're unable to voice what you need, you're unable to be yourself at the mercy of everybody else in society around you. And I think that is why I think Dr. Pankaj's statement of be true to yourself becomes really relevant. And you cannot divorce that from be true to yourself, understand what you really want. And if it is something that you can get, go after it. You might feel better, but really make a clear demarcation of what is needed and what is not needed. And things that are like Dr. Amit was talking about, people that don't need it, he would be, or, doctors who are honorable would obviously be the right people to say, you don't need me, you need to go to a therapist first. And I think that synergy is what would really work, because I deal with a lot of people from the LGBT community, IQ community. And one of the things that if you're not happy, you have options if you can afford it, because again, going back to the affordability, you have options. And God forbid you can't afford it. It is mental health trauma. It is mental health trauma that I cannot deal with alone without the support, and therefore insurance should cover it. But even mental health is not covered, so that's a different story altogether. But it should cover it, because it leads to massive trauma. If what you see is not who you are, the relation with yourself, the disconnect becomes so strong that it's imperative to balance both these sides. So I obviously have to agree with both the esteemed panelists that you have, because both make sense.
Professor Gupta, you want to make a comment?
Yeah. On this, I would like to make one small comment. See, I have listened to Prakriti ji and Amit ji very carefully. Am I audible?
Yes, very much.
So I agree with both of them. You know that if you have the resources, if you have the thing, then you please go ahead for it. But what is more important? Healthy legs or crutches? I believe healthy legs are more important. And healthy legs are your own inner image. What you think you are. You are what you believe you are. Because even if you get a plastic surgery, you got, face like Amitabh Bachchan, but later on Amitabh Bachchan is no longer there. Now you long that I should be like a Hrithik Roshan. So who will play the trick? Then you will again not liking me. No, I should go again to a plastic surgery. Now let me do this. So I believe that the inner confidence, which is only coming from self-acceptance and inner journey. External thing can be like a cosmetic, which can, when you're going on a set, you have it, it's fine. I remember when I was young, I also faced a lot of issues. I was a Hindi medium guy and I was facing this inferiority and all that. But later, once I realized, when I went and gave a talk in the White House when I was a Fulbright scholar, after that I realized the lion and tiger within me. Then there is no looking back. So I believe that if you make people realize that who they are, then they are unstoppable. And at the same time, if they can get advantage, like, any kind of plastic surgery or anything, whatever they can buy or afford, it is also a good thing, but not a necessary condition for lack of self-love for your own self. Because you are your own friend and you are your own enemy. So that is what I just thought to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, Dr. Gupta, quickly, please.
So 2 quick comments on this. One is, there's a certain group of people. So I get sometimes wives who come back saying, I want a breast implant because I believe my husband is not loving me because I have small breasts. We actually don't do surgeries for them.
Have we lost the connection with Dr. Gupta?
Okay, so 2 quick situations. Audible?
Yes. Yeah.
2 quick situations. One is wives coming to us saying their husband doesn't love them because they're small chested. We actually don't do surgery for them because there's no guarantee the husband will still love them even with bigger chest, because he's probably already found someone else. The second situation is a transgender. Now that is where I think there's a little bit of a variation with what Dr. Pankaj is saying. 2 days back, I operated a transgender 61-year-old lady, married happily for the entire duration of his life, had a daughter, 29 years old, UK based. At the age of 59, realized he was not happy with himself, changed her intimate areas to a female. 2 years later, that was done by some other doctor. And now she comes for a breast implant surgery. So getting that surgery, and you could see her beaming after that surgery. I mean, I could literally see a halo around her face. So inner acceptance changes. It just changes depending on the circumstances. We need to accept that as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta. Actually, you mentioned very important aspect. So thank you so much, our wonderful panelists today.